We're into hour number 2 now of Cavuto Coast to Coast, and we do have new developments coming into us. First of all, on the news, the United States is holding some diplomatic talks with North Korea. Back-channel talks is what's being reported, and the report is they've been happening for several months, and they continue to happen. President Trump, meantime, threatening the North publicly once again, telling them in a tweet earlier today that the U.S. is, quote, locked and loaded. And Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, we've learned they are meeting today with the president at his golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey, as some have wondered whether this national security team is really on the same page dealing with the growing North Korean crisis. Former Air Force official Rebecca Grant is with us. So is former Navy SEAL Dave Sears. Rebecca, let me go to you first on that question with McMaster and Tillerson sitting down again with the president today. Do you think that the administration and all the senior officials are on the same page in dealing with North Korea?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. Remember, they briefed Congress back in April, so you can be sure these options are ready. What does locked and loaded mean? It means they've already briefed these options. It means Pacific Fleet has their ships in the right place. It means our bombers are ready. The Devil's Own Grim Reapers, the B-2 Squadron at Whiteman and its sister squadron are ready. There is no question they're on the same page. And remember, Trump's war of words is what we need right now. Back in 1953, President Eisenhower, newly elected, threatened to nuke or attack Russia and or China if they didn't drive North Korea to the negotiating table, and it worked. We need to keep going. The administration is all on the same page, no question. Well,
speaking of being on the same page, Dave, going to highlight some tweets that have come in from Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who's no huge fan all the time of President Trump, right? I mean, he's not afraid to be critical, but he's hawkish on foreign policy, as Senator Graham. And he says Republican and Democrat presidents for the past 25 plus years have warned and complained about the North Korea nuclear program, but goes on, just to be clear, President Trump inherited the mess with North Korea. He did not create it. Those are two in a series of, I believe, about 6 tweets that he just put out on this issue. He's with the president, but he's also appears in favor of a preemptive strike, or at least he's talked favorably about that. What do you think of that strategy?
I don't like the whole idea of a preemptive strike. I don't think it's very useful at all. I think that it sends a different message than we're trying to send. It keeps both sides at the brink. We show that we are willing to retaliate with complete and utter destruction of North Korea. Not just their nuclear piece, but North Korea. And then we stage and posture and demonstrate that we're going to do that. The problem is our credibility has been bad. But the first strike, preemptive, 1, there is no guarantee that it's going to work.
Right.
And 2, it guarantees that it's going to escalate.
So the key date from you is retaliation, not preemption. Now, I asked this last hour, and I think it is the key question. What constitutes an act that needs to be retaliated against, in your opinion? Because I asked that if North Korea hypothetically fires a missile next week near Guam, as it's threatened to do, say within 20 miles, but not at Guam, is that an act that we should retaliate for? What do you think, Dave, first, before we go back?
No, I don't think we retaliate for that.
Let it go.
Let it go if we have the right indicators. Now, remember, that's going to be the last minutes that you're going to be able to determine whether that's going towards Guam or not. The other part is, though, Japan can shoot it down. That sends a different cultural embarrassment message to North Korea as well. So I would encourage Japan to be looking at this, and they have said in the collective defense structure that they're willing to implement. Their defense minister said he would look at that. It's a good idea.
Right. No, Japan basically said that they had our back on that particular one, or had the region's back, their own region, I guess is the better way of putting it. But how about you, Rebecca, on this question of preemption versus retaliation?
Guam is America. If you splash those missiles near that island, in my mind, that's grounds for retaliation. We have a lot of good precision strike options. We have ways to hurt that target set, and China can help us too. Blip a little bit of code across the border, step across the border, or shoot down one of those missiles. Guam is America. We need to be ready to retaliate.
Now, but Guam starts where? That's the question, right? That's what Dave and I were just talking about. You're saying it starts with, say it's 20 miles plus outside of Guam in the waters. That's an attack to you?
Absolutely. I'm not going to parse that one that closely. And we do have good military options there. Yeah. I think that means it's an attack.
I mean, I ask just because of the consequences of that. I almost feel like, all due respect, we have to parse it quite closely, right? Because what if he's doing that, he being Kim Jong-un, is kind of a test, and then next thing you know, you do retaliate, and one thing leads to another. Isn't that the fear, Dave, is that it gets out of hand pretty quick?
That's right, Connell. I think it's not an easy black and white question if it comes near Guam. If it's outside the economic zone and he tests these missiles, I mean, what about the ones that went into the Sea of Japan? Is that close? It's in the economic zone of Japan, pieces that we're saying. So it has to be parsed very closely before you retaliate, because the spiral of escalation with retaliation is huge and uncontrollable.
Yes, one thing, it's just, and all he needs to do is sneak in one of his missiles, Kim Jong-un, into Seoul, South Korea, or into Tokyo, or whatever the case may be, as we've been outlining for people all week. What about diplomacy? Rebecca, we heard about these back-channel talks. The Associated Press reported on that earlier, that they've been happening, but also that they continue to happen with a senior U.S. diplomat, I believe here in New York, speaking to a North Korean counterpart. Is that something that could work, or is it more important to really put pressure on China? What do you think?
Both. So, yes, and it's no coincidence that all of this is happening after Nikki Haley lined everybody up at the UN. So China's pressure is important. They gave us a great assist by also warning North Korea not to attack Guam, okay? So I think this is going to end at the negotiating table. I think we can also retaliate without escalating, but what history tells us is it takes about 8 to 10 months in a North Korea crisis to drive it to the negotiating table. We have two things we've never had before. One is a great layered missile defense. The other is a China fully integrated in the global economy, and I think this time ready to help. I expect this to end with negotiations. Got to keep the military strong.
Well, we all hope that, obviously, as Rebecca says, Dave. China and North Korea, to some extent, they need a way, don't they, to save face in all of this so that they don't look like they're completely capitulating? And if so, is there a way that happens in a negotiation and, everybody's able to get out of it and avoid conflict? How do you see it playing out?
In a negotiation, that can absolutely happen. Rebecca had an important point. It's A and B. We, here in the United States, a lot through linear thinking, we take a look at A or B, negotiation or military. It can be both tracks at the same time. Apply military pressure, look for diplomacy and negotiation. We have to show the regime and China that we're not trying to get regime change. We want the status quo without nuclear weapons. They can retain the strategic nature of the Korean Peninsula. China's happy. North Korea needs to be told and convinced that it can exist with that.
That's been the basic Tillerson point. Dave and Rebecca, thank you to both of you. Good discussion, important discussion. Now, President Trump addressing another